Caitlin Clark's scoring record has nothing to do with Pete Maravich. We're going to tell you why. What's up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of FanBuzz Weekly. I am Tyler, joined alongside Will and Patrick. And today, before we even begin, we're giving away another car. We are giving away a Ford Maverick LARIAT truck. Shout out to Publishers Clearinghouse for that. If you want a chance to win this truck, just enter in the details below, wherever you're listening to the show. But today, we got another Caitlin Clark episode, and I love talking about this girl. Future Indiana Fever, #1 overall pick. Let's go, guys. You know I can't wait for this. But, there's a lot of conversations going on right now about how Caitlin Clark stacks up to Pete Maravich after breaking the scoring record. And instead of, bashing one or the other, we thought it'd be really appropriate just take the time to appreciate both and what they've done, what they've accomplished, what makes both of them so special. Will, why don't we start with the Caitlin Clark side of things? Have you go first. What makes Clark so special, and what has she done for the women's game?
I mean, first of all, for anyone trying to diminish what happened because Pete scored his against men, Caitlin scored hers against women, there are a lot of reasons these aren't really necessarily apples-to-apples comparisons, but that's not one. There's been 50 years of women playing ball since Pistol Pete set his record, and Caitlin Clark's the first one to pass him. So she is in a class of her own, just the way he was amongst the men's game. I don't think that should be diminished at all, but she's got the women's game in a position that I've never really seen it. We've talked about it a bunch on this show, but I definitely think there's more eyes on the women's game than the men's sometimes. And definitely when it comes to Caitlin Clark in Iowa, she's probably a bigger individual star than anyone in the men's game. I mean, it's the biggest star in the men's game. Zach Edey, who Tyler would rather leave the show than talk about. But seriously, he's not like a gripping star the way Caitlin is. She's got a strong personality, which makes her super entertaining, but her game is also really unique. Everyone gets called the Steph Curry of this or the Steph Curry of that, the mid-major Steph Curry, the women's Steph Curry. But Caitlin actually has, she actually has the limitless range, that, the clever passing. She really has transformed the way the women's game is played. We've talked about how the scores have gotten higher. It's not all her, but she's been at the forefront of that, just as Steph and his Warriors completely changed the way they didn't just dominate. They changed the way teams have to approach basketball. And I really think she's a women's college version of that. Can't wait to see what she does with the Fever. Tyler, I have a question. When someone was on the Celtics, you say they were a Celtic. What do you say someone was when they were a Fever, an infection? Like what is it? What's
They're
the
a
singular
Fever, dude.
theme on the Fever?
Don't disrespect Tamika Catchings like this. She was a Fever. Legendary all-time player.
Her nickname better be like the Plague or something awesome. When she gets
the Plague. Wow, Patrick, just dropping bombs on the show.
That's what we do here. Well, I actually think she's more of instead of Steph Curry, I think she's like the LeBron right now of women's college basketball, because every single thing that she does gets scrutinized. She flops. Whatever she's doing on the court, everyone loves to either, hate it or love it or have an opinion on it, which is what people do with LeBron. And also the way she draws people to game. I don't know if you guys saw at Ohio State when I think Travis Scott was there, dapping up Jake from State Farm on the, at the court there. I'm like, what are we doing here? I don't see this at any of the men's games. It's sick. It's really sick to watch. The way she's sort of captivated all of sports, not just basketball fans, man. Everyone's tuning in to see what she's doing. In terms of comparing, I actually I like comparing it because I like imagining him going 1v1 on a driveway, which to me, I think Caitlin would destroy him 1v1 on a driveway, because I think that's that's the most purest form that you can kind of boil it down to. But if we want to get into that, we can. If not, we don't have to. We can appreciate both of them.
I think there are two things that Caitlin Clark has done for women's basketball. And, number one, I think we've talked about this on a previous episode, but just the way the game has changed. And obviously Clark isn't the first player to kind of change women's college basketball, but this sport used to be played like it was late 80s, early 90s NBA. And it was post ups, 5 seconds to the basket. We're going to crank out a 40 to 50 win, and we're going to be happy with that. But now you're just seeing the final scores are in the triple digits consistently. These games are just high flying. I still can't get that national championship game out of my head where just some girl off the bench for LSU, I wish I could remember her name, but she could not miss. And it led to a massive win. And then the other part of this, and I think Clark has just done such a great job for the women's game. I love the trash talk. I love the competitiveness. You don't see that enough anymore in college basketball for the men's side. This women's side, they are absolutely ruthless. And Clark is a big reason for that. And sure, some people will criticize her. Sometimes she brings it on herself of just like, how nasty things are getting. But I love it. I think that we need more drama. We need more beef in women's college basketball. I think it leads to a more entertaining product. And then obviously, like, the level of play is just out of this world right now.
I think you're definitely right about the intensity, like the interpersonal aspect of it. It's absolutely awesome. And I feel like I'm not the first person to complain about this. AAU basketball is killing the the drama in the NBA. These guys are all buddies who've been playing together since they were 11. College game too, I suppose. And didn't see that between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. They definitely aren't friends. But I think one of the funny things about comparing Caitlin to Pete Maravich is, she obviously played. We talk about this when we're comparing legends from eras in any sport. Every sport today is a higher scoring environment than 50 years ago, except maybe baseball. But you could use that against her. But she's kind of a big part of the reason that there's this higher scoring environment. She's been a pioneer in changing the game. But I do want to bring up a couple of the ways that it's not a worse accomplishment. It is just very different. She has the 3-point line. Pete did not have the 3-point line. And not only does Caitlin Clark have the 3-point line, she uses the heck out of it. It's been, responsible for quite a few of her points. And also she has played 130 games to Pete's 83. It's just, she's played longer. There used to be a weird rule where freshmen couldn't play varsity. So Pete didn't have as much time to get to the point where he did. But I mean, I don't think her dominance can be overstated. I think her record will stand for quite some time, unless another star decides to stay 5 years somehow.
Yeah, I feel like you get two arguments when people are making the case for Pete, and it's that he did it in 3 years and he didn't have the 3-point line. Well, here's the thing. Pete was throwing up 40 a game, 40 shots a game. Caitlin's averaging like 20. So I mean, like, yes, there's one more year, but like look at how he did it. I mean, if you're throwing up 40 shots a game, of course you're gonna like put up more points naturally. And like to use the 3-point line, I don't know, to almost discourage Caitlin doesn't make sense because like exactly, like she's pulling up from deeper and she drills them, like which she should do. I know that comparison is hard because it is a different sport, but also when you look at their career field goal percentage, Caitlin was better. Like, so I don't know if there's one stat you can really like go head to head with, and I don't know if it even matters because both were trailblazers, which is really all that matters.
I mean,
I'm not trying to use threes to discredit Caitlin. I just think it's important to contextualize that Pete, some of his shots would have been worth more if they happened after the invention of the 3-point line. And also, there's way more spacing now. I mean, we know what the 3-point line did, but no, it doesn't take away from what Caitlin's done. It's just important context regarding what Pete's done or what he honestly might have been able to do.
Yeah, and if we're moving over to Maravich and just celebrating what he did, there's a reason this scoring record took 50 years to get broken. Like, I mean, 55. Like, not being able to have your freshman stats count, only playing 3 years, not having a 3-point line, playing only 83 games. Now, we could get into the analytics of he only shot 43.8% over his career, which means he's like, we thought Melo was a volume shooter. We got Maravich just, I wish I was there for like, is anyone else shooting the ball in these games? I have to know. But this career stat line of 44.2 points per game, 6.5 assists, or 6.5 rebounds, 5.1 assists, that's just stupid numbers. And to hold this record for 50 plus years, for only having 3 seasons of stats counting, is pretty incredible. And I just think it is worthwhile to celebrate. Now, obviously, LSU fans might be a little more keen on clutching their pearls when it comes to Maravich, but I mean, it's just two completely different eras. There is a reason that it stood this long, and Maravich does at least, still deserve credit for what he was able to accomplish at the time.
Yeah, so I still want to go back to who would win 1v1 in the driveway. Who do you guys got?
Maravich was 6'5", 197, so he's kind of skinny for 6'5". I've watched some highlights of him preparing for this. I don't know if he could handle the dribble moves that Clark would be busting out, like the step backs and stuff. I don't think if we're just like placing him in a time machine and coming here, I don't know if his brain would be able to handle what he's seeing. So I think I'm taking Clark.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Are we just dropping him in 2024, or do we give him time?
Absolutely.
Because like she's seen his game, he's never seen her game, and more importantly, forget the dribble moves. She's just going to be pulling up from 40 feet, and that's something he's never had to worry about in his life before. So she's going to have more in her bag. She's going to be more ready for his bag. Yeah, I think she'd probably win. The height advantage is something for Pete, but if you're giving him no ability to prepare and learn what basketball is, unless they're playing by his rules, because that's maybe they play one game by Caitlin's rules and one game by 1965 rules. Could be an interesting series.
And he was pretty creative near the basket, so I think it's worth noting that could be a real advantage for him on his possessions. But I think that's all the time we got for this one. I think it's an interesting conversation. Listeners, what do you think? Do you think it's worthwhile to even compare them given the eras and the sports? Do you think we should celebrate both the accomplishments of both players? Just let us know in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Again, remember, we are giving away a full-on truck. Shout out Publishers Clearinghouse. Please check the episode description for that and to subscribe to our newsletter. But that's Patrick and Will. I'm Tyler. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you next week.